Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Lesson number 6. Inshallah, in this lesson, we will continue learning about the past tense. If you remember, like in the past lessons, especially in lesson number 4 and 5, we started learning about the past tense. In the past tense, we learned about dhahaba, dhahabat, and similarly some other forms. And now, inshallah, in today's lesson, we will learn about dhahabti. And as we can see over here, dhahabti is used for a feminine singular, and that is used for the second person, that is called mukhatab. You went. So when you talk about singular feminine, who is right in front of you, and you want to say, or you want to ask if she went somewhere, so you can say أذهبتِ إلى الجامعة. Did you go to the university? But it's only for singular feminine. Let's say you're talking to your sister or your daughter or anyone who is singular feminine to you, then we will ask the question saying أذهبتِ إلى الجامعة أو أذهبتِ إلى المدرسة. So ذهبتِ is you went for the feminine singular. And then after that, if you can see over here, we have the conjugation of past tense of ذهب. And that's what we are supposed to do. What we have to do, slowly but surely, we have to memorize the conjugation because it's very, very important. And we have learned that the past tense in Arabic always starts with third person singular. The past tense in Arabic always starts with the third person singular. So we have gender here, we have masculine, and we have singular over here, which is dhahaba. Dhahaba, he went, we have learned about it. And then the dual is dhahaba and the plural is dhahabu. And we have learned it already. Then for the singular feminine, third person, we say dhahabat. That means she went. And that's for the third person singular feminine. And for the dual, it will be dhahabata. So as we can see over here, for dual masculine and feminine, the sign is, or the way to recognize it is alif. That is the alif of dual, dhahaba and dhahabata. And then for the feminine plural, for the third person is dhahabna. And as you can see over here, we have two tracks over here. It's as if we have the two tracks of the train. So the first track starts from dhahaba and it continues up to dhahabna. And after reaching dhahabna, as you can see over here, there is a change that has taken place. Did you notice the change that has taken place over here? Yes, anyone over here? The change that has taken place over here. The third letter has become sakin. The third letter has become sakin, yeah. So the first two letters, as we can see, they are mutaharrik. Dal has fatha and ha has fatha, but when we reached the third letter of the conjugation, then it has become sakin. And that is how it will continue to the last form of the verb. So it will be dhahabna, and then we continue from here. And then we move on to the second person. So this is our first person completed over here. Then the second person is called al-mukhatab. And please remember that ta has fatha on it. And it will be dhahabta, and for the second person, masculine singular, dhahabtuma and dhahabtum. And today in the lesson, our focus will be on dhahabti, that is for the second person singular feminine, yani anti dhahabti. And we know that every verb form in Arabic has an inbuilt doer. What does that mean? That there is a doer that is inbuilt in the verb. For example, in dhahabti, what will be the inbuilt doer for dhahabti? Yes, any idea? Does anyone remember what is hidden or the doer in dhahabti? It's basically, no, it's the second person. So it will be anti dhahabti. Anti dhahabti. So we will say that here anti is hidden, okay? Except for form number 1 and form number 4, except for these two forms, the rest of the 14 forms, every verb has a doer inside it. For example, in dhahaba, we have huma. So we have huma here. And in dhahabu, we have hum. So huma dhahaba, hum dhahabu. And in dhahaba and dhahabat, the doer, inbuilt doer is huwa and hiya. These are the inbuilt, okay? But sometimes they will be active and sometimes they will be passive. When are they active? They are active when the doer is hidden. For example, ذهب بلال, Bilal went. So now when we say ذهب بلال, now we can see over here that huwa is inside and it is hidden over there. And then when we have, sometimes we can see that we say ذهب إلى المدرسة. When we say ذهب إلى المدرسة, he went to the school. Now he is hidden inside this and we will say he went to the school. ذهب إلى المدرسة. So when the doer is apparent, for example, ذهب بلال, when the doer is apparent, when we can see it like بلال, then ذهب means went and بلال will be the doer. بلال will be the doer. But when we say ذهب إلى المدرسة, then he will be the doer. So number 1 and number 4, as we know that the verbal sentence, when the doer is apparent, either it starts with ذهب or it starts with ذهبت. And similarly in ذهبت, the hidden is أنت, أنت ذهبت. And similarly, when we talk about ذهبتما, so it will be أنتما ذهبتما. And when we talk about ذهبتم, it will be أنتم ذهبتم. So now we can see over here that every verb has an inbuilt doer. So in ذهبت we have أنت, and in ذهبتما أنتما, and ذهبتم أنتم, and ذهبتي أنتي, and similarly أنتما ذهبتما. So here أنتما is hidden, and in ذهبتن, basically أنتن will be the doer or the hidden doer inside it, أنتن. And when we say ذهبت, that means I went, so it will be أنا ذهبت. And when we say ذهبنا, that means نحن ذهبنا, we went, okay? And one more thing that we need to be very careful about is this form, the 14th form, and then we have form number 6. Very, very important to see. If we don't prolong it, then it's fine. But when we prolong noon, then it becomes ذهبنا, and that will be form number 14. And look at the difference. When we say ذهبنا, that means all those ladies went. But when we say ذهبنا, that means we went. So it's very, very important to be careful. Here we have to make sure that we don't prolong it. And here we have to make sure that we have to prolong alif. So this is the conjugation that we have to memorize. And as you remember, we have discussed earlier that if you can memorize the conjugation of one verb, that means you have memorized the conjugation of almost 1,000 verbs that have been used in the Quran. And also we need to know that the third person, it's very, very important. Similarly, the second person and the first person is called al-mutakallim. These are very, very important. Then we move on to the numbers, and you know the numbers, they are always in Arabic challenging. They are not very easy to learn, okay? So in this lesson, the numbers that we are focusing are from 11 to 20 with feminine ma'dud, when the thing that is being counted is feminine. So when we talk about the categories that we have learned, for example, the first category is A, which is numbers from 11 to 12. And numbers from 11 to 12, as we know, both parts of the number agree with the ma'dud. So both parts, you know that the numbers from 11 to 20, you know that, right? In fact, from 11 to 19, sorry, they are compound numbers. What does that mean, they're compound numbers? That means the first two parts will be considered as 1, and the ma'dud will be considered as 1. So the first two parts are always, they are mabniyun al-fath. All of them from 11 to 19, they are mabniyun al-fath, except for 12. 12 is not mabniyun. But 11, 13, and up to 19, they are mabniyun al-fath. Yani the first two numbers will always be read with singular fatha, always. So 11 taliban, now we can see here that 11 students. So ma'dud is wahid, and it is masculine. Similarly, ahada is also masculine. But when we talk about the feminine, if the ma'dud is feminine, talibatan, then we have to use ihda, which is the feminine of ahada. So we will say ihda ashrata talibatan. So now we can see over here that ihda is used for feminine, ashrata is used for feminine, and talibatan is used for feminine. And we can see here that both the parts of the number agree with the ma'dud. So this part and the second part, they have to agree with ma'dud. Similarly, إثنا عشر طالبا, 12 masculine students. Ithna is used for masculine, ashara is used for masculine, and taliban is used for masculine. But when we talk about 12 feminine students, we will say ithnata asharata talibatan. Now we can see here ithnata is feminine, asharata is feminine, and talibatan is also feminine. And also you need to notice that the sheen, as we can see over here, has fatha, and in ashara, in asharata it is sakin, and in ashara it has fatha, as we can see over here. The numbers from 13 to 19 now, as I mentioned, that the numbers from 13 to 19, when the ma'dud is feminine. Okay, so here when we talk about when the ma'dud is masculine, as we can see over here, what will happen? Do you remember when the ma'dud is masculine? The first part of the compound construction will be opposite. The first part will be opposite. For example, Taliban is masculine, so the first part will be feminine. ثلاثة عشر طالبا. And similarly, we will say أربعة عشر طالبا, خمسة عشر طالبا, up to 19, تسعة عشر طالبا. So that's very, very important to remember. But when ma'dud is feminine, then the first part of the compound will be masculine. That means it will be opposite. It will be opposite. It's very, very important that it will be opposite. So we will say ثلاثة عشرة طالبة, أربع عشرة طالبة, خمس عشرة طالبة, and up to تسع عشرة طالبة. So that's the thing that we need to remember over here. The easiest thing that you can see in feminine, when the ma'dud is feminine, both the parts end with the marbuta, as you can see over here. So when the ma'dud is feminine, then both the parts will end with ta marbuta. But when ma'dud is masculine, then the first part will end with ta marbuta. Similarly, we want to say 14 masculine students. So we will say ثمانية عشر طالبا. So we can see Taliban is masculine, and the first part will be always feminine. But you want to say 18 feminine students. Now we know that thamani is basically thamanin, and this is ismul manqus. If you remember, it is what? Ismul manqus, and we know that ismul manqus has a hidden ya in it, and now the number is being used as mudaf. So when it is being used as mudaf, then what happens? The ya comes back. So we will say thamani ashrata talibatan. So for masculine, thamaniyat ashra taliban, but feminine we will say thamani ashrata talibatan. Here ya will be sakin. That's very, very important. Now what do we have? Now we have groups of the numbers, and as I told you, that numbers from 1 to 20 have lots of different groups. So when you talk about the groups, group number 1 is numbers 1 and 2. Group number 1 is what? Numbers 1 and 2. So when we talked about numbers 1 and 2 in book number 1, we have learned that they are equal. They are used as mawsuf sifa, noun and adjective. So kitabun wahidun, siyaratun wahidatun. Kitabun wahidun and siyaratun wahidatun, because kitabun masculine, so number is masculine. Siyaratun is feminine, and the number is feminine. And when we talk about the dual, when we say kitabani, then the number that we have to use is also for the dual. So we will say kitabani ithnani, because the hamza of ithnani is hamzatul wasl, and siyaratan ithnatani, and when you have two cars, then they will be equal in capacity, gender, number, and status. Or because they are masuf sifa, so they need to be equal in all the 4 properties of the noun. So kitabani ithnani, qalamani ithnani, rajulani ithnani. But when we say siyaratani ithnatani, similarly kalimatani ithnatani, and similarly jannatani ithnatani. So they have to be equal in number and gender. So the groups that we have from 1 to 20, how many groups we have? This is our group number 1. Then we move on to group number 2. So what is group number 2? Now we can see over here. In group number 2, let me erase this. Yeah, in group number 2, we have numbers from 3 to 10. What are the numbers? The numbers that we have are from 3 to 10. What do you remember about the numbers from 3 to 10? This is our group number 2. Yes, what do you remember about 3 to 10? Yes. I hope you remember the previous or the old information. The numbers from 3 to 10, two things we need to know. Adad and Ma'dud are opposite in gender. That's number one. And number two, Ma'dud will be always plural and it will be opposite to the Adad. Ma'dud will be always plural and it will be opposite to the Adad. For example, we have to look at the original noun. The original noun for Rijal is Rajulun. Rajulun. So what is the plural of Rajulun? Rijalun. Now, because Rajulun is masculine, the number has to be opposite. So that's why we will say Thalathatu Rijalin. And Nisa'un, as we know, is the plural of Niswatun. Now we know Niswatun is or Imratun, sorry, it's the plural of Imratun. So Imratun is feminine, which is singular. And Imratun is feminine, that's why the number will be opposite in gender. So it will be Thalathu Nisa'in. So this is our group number 2. Group number 1, 1 and 2. Group number 2 from 3 to 10. Now we move on to group number 3. Okay, in group number 3, what do we have? We have numbers from 11 to 12. Numbers from 11 to 12. So 11 to 12, as we can see over here, this is our group number 3. In group number 3, we have 11 to 12. And we have learned earlier in the beginning of the lesson that 11 to 12 are equal in number and gender. So whatever the gender of the Ma'dud is, it has to be the gender of the Adad. So we know that they are equal in number and gender, and we have learned about it already. So I believe we can move on to the 4th group. Yes, what's the 4th group? 4th group is numbers from 13 to 19. Okay, what is special from 13 to 19? Yes, does anyone remember? This is our group number 4. 13 to 19, yes, what is special about it? What is special about it? These are compound numbers. Compound number means Adad will be always combination of 2 and Ma'dud will be always combination of 1. So Adad will be always combination of 2. That's number 1. Number 2, it will be Mabniyun al-Fath. It will be Mabniyun al-Fath, except for 12. 12 is an exception. So, and also, if Ma'dud is masculine, then the first part will be feminine. So we say Thalathat Ashara Taliban. But when we have the Ma'dud is feminine, then we will say Thalatha Ashrata Talibatan. So this is our group number 4. And group number 4 is from 13 to 19. And two things you need to remember. Number 1, that they are always, the first part is always used as compound. And number 2, it is always Mabniyun al-Fath. Doesn't matter, it is used for masculine or feminine. So Alhamdulillah, these are some groups. One more, 2, I think. Still, we have 2 more groups to go. So 4 groups are already completed. Alhamdulillah, numbers in Arabic are really, really, as I said in the beginning of this class, challenging, but inshallah, with the passage of time, we will come to know. Now we have decades. So this is group number 5, decades. What are decades? We have the tens, for example, 20, 30, 40, 50, up to 90. So the numbers that are 20 to 90, 20 and 90, yani 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90, they are on the pattern of singular masculine, for masculine plural, yani on the sound of una. For example, we have Muslimuna, Mu'minuna. Similarly, we have Ishruna, Tis'una, and it will be, and when it is Mansub and Majroor, it will be Ishrina and Tis'ina. And please remember that for the numbers from 20 to 90, similarly, Miyatun and Alfun, the Ma'dud will be always singular. The Ma'dud will be always singular. However, look at the difference. When we talk about the decades, in decades, the Ma'dud is always singular and always mansub. Ma'dud is always singular and it is always mansub. For example, khamsuna musliman wa khamsuna muslimatan. Tis'una musliman wa tis'una muslimatan. But when we talk about miyatun wa alfun, we know that miyatu and alfu are used as mudaf, and the noun after that will be singular and it will be mudafun ilayhi. For example, we say miyatu amin. It's used in the Quran, miyatu amin. And similarly, we have alfu, and we have laylatul qadri khairum min alfi shahrin. So we know that the numbers after 100 and 1000 will be singular, and they will be always majroor because they are used as mudaf ilayh. So I believe, inshallah, now all the 5 groups are clear. The first group is 1 and 2. The second group is 3 to 10. The third group is 11, 12. The fourth group is 13 to 19. And the fifth group is the decades that we have learned so far, and similarly, miyatun wa alfun. Now it's up to you, inshallah. I hope it's clear that you practice as much as you can. And inshallah, when we reach in lesson number 18 or 19, I remember, then we have a summary of all the numbers, and over there, inshallah, we will practice all the numbers that have been used in the Quran. So inshallah, I have a list of all the numbers that have been used in the Quran, so we will practice that as well. Now we move on. We are done with the numbers, alhamdulillah. Now we move on to point number 3. In point number 3, we are going to learn about the ismul istifham, the question word that is always used as mudaf. That's number 1. And that is always munsarif. And it's a triptot. And this is the only ismul istifham that is triptot. What does that mean? It can be used as ayyun, it can be used as ayyan, and it can be used as ayyin. Tayyib. Okay. Now we can see that because it is used always as mudaf, that's why it will not take tanween, because it is always used as mudaf. And I hope you remember that mudaf does not take tanween. I have a question for you. Ayyu talibin kharaja? Which student went out? Now please tell me here why ayyu is marfu'. Please tell me quickly why ayyu is marfu'. Anyone has any idea? Yalla ya tulab, come on, come on, come on. What kind of sentence is this? Verbal sentence or nominal sentence? It's a verbal sentence or nominal sentence. By the first look, you can say it's a nominal sentence because it starts with a noun. So ayyu talibin, you can say it's mubtada, and kharaja is khabar. So this is mubtada and this is khabar. However, if you want to say it another way, if you want to change it into a verbal sentence, then you will change it into a verbal sentence, and it will be kharaja ayyu talibin. Kharaja ayyu talibin. That will be a verbal sentence. However, this sentence is wrong. Why? This is just to explain it for you, because we know that ayyu is ismul istifham, and it requires that it should come in the beginning of the sentence. So that's why it is marfu'. So if you want to say it is the doer of kharaja, then it's fine. Kharaja ayyu talibin. Kharaja ayyu talibin. However, it should come in the beginning of the sentence. Why? Because it is a question word, and question word always comes in the beginning of the sentence. Now, sentence number 2. You have to tell me why ayya is mansub. I hope you're able to figure it out. Why ayya is mansub? Yes, please. Anyone over there? Because it is the object of qara'ta. Qara'ta yani anta qara'ta. Anta qara'ta. Okay. So we can see over here, qara'ta is fail plus file, and ayya is used as maf'ul bihi. It is used as maf'ul bihi, and we know maf'ul bihi is always mansub. It is always mansub. So if I show you the real construction, inshallah, it will be clearer to you. The real construction is qara'ta ayya kitabin. Now here it's easier for you. Why it's easier for you? Because we know that qara'ta is what? It is verb, right? It is verb plus doer. It is fail plus file. And ayya kitabin is maf'ul bihi. So now it is easier. But the only problem is sometimes we see that ayya is mansub and it comes in the beginning of the sentence. Why it is mansub? It is mansub because it is a question word, and it is a requirement that the question word should come in the beginning of the sentence. So that's why here it is slightly confusing. But here I'm sure, inshallah, it's very clear that qara'ta is fail plus file, and ayya is mansub, it is maf'ul bihi. Now, because it is a requirement that it should come in the beginning of the sentence, that's why we can see over here it is mansub, and here it is majroor. Why it is majroor? Because of harf jar bi. Why it is majroor? Because of harf jar bi. So it will be bi ayyi qalamin katabta, which pen did you write with? And here it's basically, originally it is katabta bi ayyi qalamin, katabta bi ayyi qalamin. However, we know that bi ayyi qalamin, bi ayyi should come in the beginning of the sentence because it is a question word. So I'm sure, inshallah, this sentence is clear. This sentence is clear, but in this sentence, you need to be slightly careful, and you need to know that if ayya comes in the beginning of the sentence and if it is mansub, then there has to be a reason like why it is mansub. All right, so after that, we will learn about anna. We have learned about inna. Do you remember anything about inna? Yes, please. Inna wa akhawatuha. Inna has ismu inna and khabaru inna, right? And inna has its sisters. And we have learned about lakinna. We have learned about inna. We have learned about some other sisters of laysa. We have also learned about that. And now we are going to learn about anna. Okay, what is the difference between inna and anna? Look at the example. Adhunnu means I think. Adhunnu annaha dhahabat ila makkata. I think that she went to Makkah. Anna is a sister of Inna, and so it has Ismu Inna and it has Khabaru Inna, and we know that Ismu Inna is Mansub and Khabaru Inna is Marfu'. Okay, now what do we need to know about how do we differentiate between Inna and Anna? How do we differentiate? So I have made it clear for you. Anna comes after the verb. It does not come in the beginning of the sentence. Anna ahsant, ahsant. It never comes in the beginning of the sentence. It comes after the verb, as we can see here. Adhunnu anna hamidan maridun. Now hamidan is mansub because it is ismu anna, and maridun is marfu because it is khabaru anna. So this is already clear. أظن أن الإمام جديد. أظن أن فاطمة غائبة. And أظن أنك متعب. So here ka will be ismu anna and mut'abun will be khabaru anna. So we can see over here that after the verb we have to use anna and not inna. So that's why we say ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Ashhadu anna, right? We don't say ashhadu inna. We have to say ashhadu anna because anna comes after the verb, as we can see over here. Okay, however, if you see over here about inna, we need to know two things about inna. Number one, inna comes in the beginning of the sentence. We have learned about it already, as we have in the example over here. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Inna Allaha ghafurur rahim wa iyyakum. Inna Allaha ghafurur rahim. But please remember, there is one special verb which is qala. And qala means it's not only qala, it can be the past tense, it can be the present tense. For example, it can be qala, it can be yaqulu. It can be qalat, it can be qulna, it can be anything. Anything that is the form of qala. After qala, we have to use inna. It is very, very important point. And it is used a lot in the Quran. It is used a lot in the Quran. So that's why in the Quran, whenever we have qala or qalat or qalu or yaqulu or taqulu or yaquluna or taquluna, after that, the verb has to be inna and not anna. So you can take it as an exception, because in the previous slide, we have learned that after the verb, we use anna. But now we can see that after qala, we have to use inna. We have to use inna. For example, here we have qala innaka ahsanu talibin fil fasli. He said, you are the best student in the class. So qala, after qala, the particle inna is used and not anna. That is very, very important. You can take it as an exception if you want to, because we have learned previously that after the verb we always use anna, but after qala we have to use inna. So after about inna, we need to remember two things. What are the two things that we need to remember? Number one, it comes in the beginning of the sentence, and number two, it comes after the verb qala. And let me repeat again, it's not only restricted to qala only the past tense, it can be the past tense, it can be the present tense. Lima, Lima means why. And it's not lima, it's lima. Why? Okay. As we have in the Quran, lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. Why do you say that you do not do? Lima. Okay. However, you might have noticed sometimes that it is used with lima, ha asakt, lima. Okay, now please remember, when you are using lima with the question, when you are using it with the question, then please remember that when you are using it with the question, then you remember, please, that, okay, sorry. So, um, let me say again, when it is used in the question, then you cannot use ha asakt. You cannot use ha asakt. You can only use ha asakt when it is used alone, when it is used by itself. For example, you say, Ana dhahabtu ila al-maktabah. I went to the library. And I say, Lima. Lima. Khalas, I stop over there. But if I want to say, why did you go to the library? Then I will say, لماذا ذهبت إلى المكتبة? So it is used only by itself. It cannot be used with the question itself. However, in the Quran, it is used in a different way. And in the Quran, there are few verses of the Quran where this ha usakt is used. Please remember, this ha usakt does not have any meaning. It does not have any meaning. It is only used because in the Quran, like for example, we have al-qari'ah, mal-qari'ah. So when we stop, we know ta marbuta, we remember that ta marbuta is pronounced as ha. So it becomes ah. So that's why in the Quran we have وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَهْ نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. So this is also هَاءُ مُقْرَأُ كِتَابِيَهْ. So there are a few places in the Quran where this ha usakt has been used. As you can see over here in the Quran, it is also used, and this is called ha usakt. Okay, point number 7. Lots of points are there. So in this lesson, we will only discuss about the handouts of the points, and inshallah, next lesson we will do the lesson and then we will do the exercise. Okay, we have learned in book 1 some examples of the adjectives ending with anu. For example, jaw'anu, atashanu, and ghadbanu. And in book number 1, we have learned that these are diptot, yani they are mamnu min as-sarf. Okay, and when we talk about the feminine of jaw'anu, atashanu, ghadbanu, the feminine comes on the pattern of fa'la, So for example, jaw'an, atashan, and ghadban, the feminine will be jaw'a, atasha, and ghadba. Now, please remember the real Arabic, modern standard Arabic. If you are talking the proper Arabic, if you are a masculine, you will say ana jaw'anu. And if you are a feminine, you will say ana jaw'a, ana atasha, ana ghadba. However, in Amiya, in the daily Arabic, they also say ana jaw'ana, ana atashana, ana ghadbana. And they make it feminine, like a regular feminine. For example, mu'minun, mu'mina. Similarly, we have like nasirun, nasira, jalisun, jalisa. So we add ta marbuta, but adding ta marbuta to this will be a mistake. It's not as it is. It is, as we can see over here, jaw'anu, the feminine is jaw'a, atashanu, atasha, and ghadbanu, ghadba. However, the plural for both of them is the same, and the plural comes on the pattern of fi'alun. For example, jadidun, if you remember, the plural of jadidun is jududun. In book number 1, we have learned jududun. And jududun is used for both. It is used for feminine plural and it is used for masculine plural. Similarly, jia'un on the pattern of fi'alun is used for both. So bilalun, jaw'anu, but we say ar-rijalu jia'un. Aminatu jaw'a and an-nisa'u jia'un. Similarly, itashun, ghidabun. And now on this pattern, you can make the plural. However, we know that the Arabic language, always there are exceptions because language is not mathematics. There might be some exceptions, as we can see over here. Note that the plural of kaslanu is kasla. Sorry, the plural of kaslanu and kasla is kusala. kusala. So it is not on the pattern of fi'alun. It's not on that pattern. It is a different pattern. And you can take it as an exception. And as we have in the Quran, وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى, as we can see over here. So for regular adjectives, jawanu, atashanu, ghadbanu, the plural will be on the pattern of fi'alun. For example, ji'a'un, itashun, ghidabun. But when we talk about kaslanu and the kasla, after for kaslanu and kasla, the plural is on the pattern of kusala, and this is an exception. It is not on the pattern of fi'alun. We are almost there, inshallah. Hati, yani bring or give. And we can use it with other pronouns as well. For example, when you talk to Ahmadu, you will say, Ya Ahmadu, hati, bring yani. And when you are talking to masculine, you will say, Ya Ikhwanu, hatu. But when you are talking to Zainab, you will say, Ya Zainabu, hati. We have to add ya to differentiate. And also, the difference between fi'l al-amr for masculine and feminine is different. And for akhawatu, we will say, Ya akhawatu, hatina. That means bring. So you say, Ya Ahmadu, hati al-kitaba. Ya ikhwanu, hatu al-kitaba. Ya Zainabu, hati al-kitaba. Wa ya akhawatu, hatina al-kitaba. And because this is fi'l al-amr, this is the command. That's why the noun that comes after that will be mansub. That's why I said, Ya Ahmadu, hatil kitaba. Hati al-kitaba. And we know when we connect it, then we will say, hatil kitaba with fatha. Okay, do you have an example? Do you remember an example of hatu from the Quran? Yes, anyone? Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen. And if you look at the translation, bring your proof if you are truthful. These books, of course, we are learning for two purposes. Number one, we are learning, we want to know the Arabic language, modern standard Arabic. However, our real aim is to learn Arabic to understand the Quran. That's why anything that you are learning from these books, try to find examples from the Quran so that we can relate it, and so that when we complete the course, we are inshallah already able to understand the Quran. Don't wait for this course to complete and then try to implement it. No, don't do that. Whatever you're learning, try to implement it. Try to find the rules in the Quran so that we get used to it. Then we have another fi'l al-amr, that is khudh, that means take. As of now, we only need to know that if you want to tell someone bring something, you will say khudh. For example, khudhil kitaba. For example, Ya Yahya, khudhil kitaba biquwa. So as we can see over here, khudh, and for the feminine, it will be khudhi. I will only give you two, inshallah, and the rest we will learn when we start learning the verbs. Khudhi for feminine, singular, and khudh for masculine, singular. Fariha comes with the preposition of be, and please remember that this preposition is very, very important. Inshallah, I will give you 22 uses of the preposition be in the Quran. I have a document I have prepared that says 22 uses of be in the Quran. So it's a very, very, very important preposition, has different meanings. And here, if you want to say the teacher was happy with me, you will say فَفَرِحَ بِي الْمُدَرِّسُ كَثِيرًا. If you want to say I was pleased with you, you will say فَرِحْتُ بِكَ. So you have to use the preposition of be. You cannot use ila or any other preposition. فَرِحُ بِنَا, they were pleased with us. And أَفْرِحْتَ بِهِ, were you pleased with him? And inshallah, the last point that we have over here is the conjugation. And alhamdulillah, I have given you the complete conjugation of past tense in the beginning of the lesson. So inshallah, I'm sure that you are used to it now. And when we move further in the course, we will try to inshallah learn it, and we will also learn by implementing them in the lessons one by one. For example, dhahabat, we learned today, that means she went. Dhahabta, that means you went. Dhahabti, that means you went for the singular feminine, and dhahabtu, I went. These are the four that we have learned already through the books. However, I have given you all the 14, and now inshallah it's entirely up to you to memorize all these 14 forms of the verb. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant আস্তাগফিরুকা ওয়া আতুবু ইলাইক। আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু।